episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor. Welcome, everybody, again to another episode of our show with another really fascinating guest helping to create a better tomorrow on some very interesting fronts. Today, we are going to continue what I refer to as our virtual road trip. We are heading over to the Netherlands to visit with the company Scelta Mushrooms, which is an innovative food company. It's located in Venlo in the Netherlands, and the company processes mushrooms, ultimately creating a portfolio of mushroom and mushroom-derived products, fresh, frozen, preserved, for distribution in the food industry, also to food suppliers and food retailers around the world. Scelta has a group of production facilities, I think 6 in total. They are exporting products currently to over 80 countries worldwide. They are widely recognized as one of the most innovative mushroom companies in the world. And we have the honor today of being joined by Mr. Jan Klerken, who is the founder of Scelta. His family has been in the mushroom business for 3 generations now, combining a total of over 50 years of experience within the industry. And he has been very instrumental and is very interested in focusing on this intersection, pioneering the intersection of taste, of health, and sustainability in the mushroom industry. In 2008, Scelta opened up the Scelta Institute, which is a research and development center for testing new products, coming up with new recipes and ideas. And when he's not doing all of that, Mr. Klerken is also an ambassador for the Kids University for Cooking. Kokkerelli is called, which is a nonprofit initiative introducing and familiarizing Dutch children with the wonderful world of food innovation and sustainability. Welcome, Mr. Jan Klerken, to our show.
Thank you very much for your introduction.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is an exciting topic. We're going to go in many directions today. Jan, I'd love to start things out as we typically do by handing you the floor for a couple of minutes, just to talk about you and your family, because I know you've been, your family's been in the mushroom industry for over 50 years now, and I read that you have been involved for 45 years. So, I mean, the very 5-year-old Jan Klerken was, with his father, learning the business. Talk a little bit about your family and sort of the early days of your involvement as a child in this very unique area.
Yeah, okay. So, thank you for the floor. And it started all with these white little miracles. My father used to be a mushroom grower. He started in the early 60s, in 62. And next to asparagus and cherries, he found a new alternative with not much space and land needed, growing mushrooms. There was a kind of a new crop in the Netherlands that time. And he was one of the pioneers there. And soon after he started growing these mushrooms, he thought, I will also have my own small canning factory. So next to the farm, we had a small factory. And I was at that moment a 5-year-old guy. And I looked at all these activities and I fell straight in love. And I thought, I won't be a firefighter in the future, but I will be a mushroom man. And then when I got 16, I didn't like to go to school, not that much. And when I was 16 years old, I was at high school. And one day I decided not to go anymore and asked my dad, can you offer me a job? So he expected that already. And he said, okay, I can only offer you a job if we can send you to the night school. And then during the day, you can work in the company. And that's how I started. And as a forklift driver, monitoring, operating the autoclaves for the retort of the mushrooms and cans, till also a truck driver. I did everything in the company and I really enjoyed it. And then when I was 22 years old, I have 3 sisters. And my dad said, okay, I'm now like 57. My health is not really optimum. If you would take over the company now with one of your sisters who is in finance, that would be a great thing. And then I was very happy to do so. And I accepted this proposal straight away. And then after 1 year, I came home at night and said, "Dad, I can sell something beautiful." And he said, "What is it you can sell then?" I said, "I can sell your company because I won't continue. I feel like in a mushroom prison, all the staff, 60 people, knew everything better than I did. At night, I had fights with my father about this was not optimum, that is not going right direction. And I was really tired about it. And I thought this won't change anymore in the future. So then, of course, he was very, very disappointed and mad and sad about the situation. But I didn't continue. So, and he wouldn't do it himself. And there was a very good buyer to buy the business at a good price. And at that moment, I started doing my business myself. So I found two small companies in the Netherlands who did almost the same. And I started buying mushrooms in France. In Paris, you still have Rungis. That is the biggest food market in the world. I saw a lot of business and I never saw money. So I started buying with money. So the people were surprised that I didn't write checks or other payment promises, but I bought in cash. And then cash is king. Within 1 year, they called me Le Roi de Rungis, the king of Rungis. I brought these mushrooms, which were grown in caves, which had a better quality. I brought them to the Netherlands. One small factory, family business, they produced mushrooms in buckets, like flesh blanched, mainly for the restaurants. It was a quite new product. And the other factory was a small cannery, like we used to have at home. And with them, I started canning these mushrooms. And it was a beautiful result. The mushrooms were much higher in quality than what we used to process in the Netherlands. And then I thought this product deserves a new market. So in 1983, I went by, I put in 3 cans in a kind of a backpack, and I went to the United States to a company called Hartog International. I found them in the telex book at that time, being food importers in Manhattan. So I introduced this product there, and they were very excited. So that was my first business in the States. And today, the United States is still our most important market. But then I didn't have enough mushrooms from France, so I had to source them elsewhere. I started sourcing them in Poland, and in Poland, you couldn't even pay with money, so you had to barter. This barter trade was very exciting. So what do you need? Yeah, beer. So beer and cans. I brought them snow boots from Indonesia, tuna fish from the Philippines, baby clams from Thailand. So I was traveling the world just to exchange mushrooms and to grow our business. And yeah, that was perhaps the most exciting time of my life. Then our 2 children were born in 84 and 88. Then that part of traveling stopped a little bit. We were at that moment number 3 in Europe in size. So the business was growing tremendously. And then there was a UK-based company called Perkins Foods. And they said, if I buy your business and put it together with the 2 factories, we are number 3 in Europe. And that has a certain value on the stock exchange in London. What do you think about it? So I was rather young. Yeah? I was 31 years old, worked like a slave before, went with my truck to Paris and everything. And then I said, why not? Por qué no? And that's how I did that. And after the University of Life, I was taught by my British friends how to do presentations for Citibank and Barclays. And then I found out that the City of London, so the financial heart, it's a very weird place. So because I was not allowed to talk about currency. So everything I gave exchange in figures, people meant it was sterling, pound sterling, and it was Dutch guilders, which had a value of 3.5 times less than pound sterling that time. So that was really exciting, but I needed to stay there like 3 years. I stayed 5 years because I had a huge dream to become number 1 in the world. And we were about to take over our French competitor. And then the day before we signed off, my CEO sent me a fax, a telefax, saying, "Listen, Jan, history shows that cooperation between British and French companies is almost not possible, or not possible at all. So we decided not to continue with this deal." And that was for me the start to say goodbye. And I started my new business. So Scelta Mushrooms and Champimere, our frozen factory, was born at that time. And then from there on, yeah, we started growing again. So the first years we started growing and also canning mushrooms in India. We had like 4,000 colleagues in 3 factories there, always in a joint venture sphere. And then finally in 1999, I was able to become the largest processor in the world. And then together with private equity, we took over our biggest competitor, which was owned also by British PLC. And that's, yeah, everybody makes mistakes in life. And afterwards, that was one of my biggest mistakes. So it was a drama. There was a huge loss every year. So after 3 years, we were forced to sell everything. And then I decided to change my life in a way that we need some real strong pillars under our business. And that is the moment that we rethought the future of our mushroom business. And then we said, okay, it must be healthy, it must be tasteful, and it must be sustainable. So in 2002, we were very early adapters. But from there on, we moved our business forward based on these pillars. And today, we have 6 factories in the Netherlands with different shareholders, but we have a central function of sales, marketing, and research. And we employ in total 400 people. The output this running year is 160,000 metric tons. So we never talked about being number 1 anymore in life. So now we talk about we like to be faster than number 2. And that makes it different for your people. And yeah, that's my both my sons. They always, when I was coming back from intercontinental trip, which was at least twice a month, so I slept like 200 nights in different beds and in airplanes, and they always kept telling me, "Listen, Dad, you are so crazy. You come back on a Saturday morning, your assistant, your secretary comes in. She gives you a load of paperwork, and then we don't see you during the weekend. And on Monday morning, you say goodbye." And then, so I don't know if I'm a bad dad or a bad husband, but they said never we would follow your business. And in 2009, my oldest graduated from university, and there was a crisis, of course. Nobody needs any assistance, no corporates. Then I said, okay, you can start in a small company of ours, our taste company. It's separate from the rest. Perhaps that is something. And the youngest one, he started in 2012. We had a World Horticulture exhibition, and he had an in-between year. And I saw an expo in Tokyo, Japan, and the Museum of Emerging Science and Innovation. We saw an exhibition. It's a tasty world. And as the Japanese people, can I borrow this to put it on a World Horticulture Expo? And the Japanese thought I was crazy. What a question! We never had such a question. I said I never saw such an exhibition. And then my youngest, I put him in charge to move over that in six sea containers this exhibition to the Netherlands. And since then he fell in love with our veggie snacks. And today he is he's in the board team, and he is the commercial part. So they like what they do today, and I like work with them. But I hired a CEO in the company because I saw that I won't make the same mistake as I did with my father.
Sure.
So I am not his boss. I'm just his colleague. I'm his father. I'm his friend. We travel together. And the oldest one is more in the innovation part of the business, which I will explain a little bit more later.
Sure. It's a wonderful background story. I have something similar in my own life in the pharmacy business, but that's for that's for another show. But I know the sort of the intricacies of working with family. It can be very good, but also. But anyway, it's a fascinating background, Jan. And you know, as I sit here and I think of your sort of triangle there of taste, of health, and sustainability. You know, obviously you not just in the production side, innovation obviously very important, and like any industry, things have transitioned. You have taken innovation and obviously beyond the production of food products, you ventured into a lot of other very nice, high value opportunities in this space. Things like Myco Friends, where you're investigating interesting health promotion benefits for the immune system. You have the Scelta Taste Accelerator, looking at sort of this umami taste enhancement component where mushrooms can play a very important role. Talk a little bit about innovation as it's occurred over the years in your specific business. Obviously, your sons have taken the reign on some of that, but some of what you envision in terms of these high value, value-added opportunities from mushrooms.
Yeah, so it all starts with irritation for me. So no innovation without irritation. I got irritated already at the time with my dad, where we were producing cans and glass jars, mushrooms, cooked and acid and salt. So it tastes like really nothing. It tastes like shit. And I always told my dad, listen, how can we produce this? I would never give it as a present to a friend. Not even, I would not even get it for free. So he said, listen, first of all, don't give it away. Secondly, you don't have to eat it yourself, and serve this full truckloads. And then after 2002, after this misstep and taking over that company, I thought now it's also ready with this product. So now we develop new products which are tasteful, and then driven through curiosity in a way. Then I say, why is it that the mushroom tastes so different in different applications? Mm-hmm. So we started just digging in the DNA of the product. Mm-hmm. Finally, we made in 2005 we had a biometric passport ready. So we know like 5,000 properties inside of the mushroom, which is huge. So we shopped in Netherlands, in China, also near you in Penn State University.
Sure.
We worked with a commercial company to make the DNA of the mushroom. And then we saw the top 5 ingredients, so like glutamate, guanylate, nucleotides, beta-glucans, ergosterol. And then because I didn't follow study, I had no clue what I could do with it. So I hired always the best people for it. And then they say, okay, there's so much taste in your mushroom. You can compete with yeast extracts or with MSG, with monosodium glutamate. So with synthetic amino acids. And so we built a factory in 2008 without really knowing the market. We had a small pilot in France, and we built a factory to use mushroom waste like mushroom stems and also mushroom cooking juice from canneries in the area. And we started cleaning that, processing that, and also vacuum drying it. And the result was a paste, and this paste so it has a very strong taste. So don't waste the taste was the motto at that time. And then we found ways. First we went to the big four. The big four, not the accountants, but the soup makers like Campbell's, sure. Lions, Nestle, Unilever.
Yep.
I say they should become our clients to enhance the taste of mushroom. And that worked. But then the factory was only occupied for like 10%. Mm-hmm. And then we started creating new products and digging deeper in the DNA of the taste. So Japan, of course, is the mecca of taste. we became member of the Umami Information Center.
Okay.
Umami has the fifth taste, and they helped me a lot to explore the why behind the taste of the mushroom. Today we are experts. We set that company a little bit apart. It's called today Scelta Inside, because we are like Intel Inside. We are in a lot of food products, and what it does, it enhances the taste, the flavor of even from sugar. We can decrease salt levels, which is very important, and it's a real natural taste enhancer. And we make varieties on that.
Mm-hmm.
And today that is a business model for us. When you talk about health, there was a crazy professor came to my place, and he said, "Can you also grow brown mushrooms?" I said, "Sure." But he didn't mean this brown mushroom, like the portobello mushroom, but he meant another type of mushroom, which is called in Latin Agaricus blazei muril. And this is ABM, and this is growing in open air and needs sun. So I went with him to Brazil. They call it the Cogumelo do Sol, the mushroom of the sun, but they also call it the Cogumelo do Deo, the mushroom from God.
Mm.
And I said, why is it that you want us to grow these mushrooms? Is that because they have properties that I can really fight cancer?
Mm.
And that's how we started. And he did the trials, and he was very successful until the moment that they put him in jail for forbidden medicine trade from in Switzerland. And that was also the moment that stopped completely. Then, but I never forgot, because I saw examples of people they were through science given up, like we say. He revived them, and but I had to promise my wife not to talk about cancer and mushrooms anymore, the combination. But I was triggered. What was the reason? And then afterwards, it seemed that the high content of beta glucan in that mushroom was really the main component to help your immune system repairing, but also have a very strong working on the immune system, mainly through production of white blood cells. So they put your white blood cells on the max. So that is what we have done. And then we did a lot of trials there. We were able to grow that mushroom. But then EFSA came and say, listen, we have to reduce the heavy metals with 10 times. And then on a normal compost, it was impossible to grow that mushroom.
Mm.
Then we gave it up. We gave up that small company we had, it's called Inner Life. And then 2 years later, I met some guy, a biochemist. He said, but you don't need these fruiting bodies. You can also use the mycelium. And now we formed a system where we didn't use the fruiting bodies anymore, but only the mycelium.
Mm.
And that took us quite some time to really prove, and also with patented systems, that we can go for a downstream processing and solid state fermentation. It's very technical, but that we have a result that mycelium is growing on a wheat or another strain as a carrier, and then we let it ferment for like 3 or 4 months, and at the end of the day you have a product with 25% biomass.
Mm.
And this biomass is also very profitable for animals. So we started in pork together with a big Dutch company, and a multinational in the feed vitamin industry. And then they saw the results that it has three really very interesting properties. One is that a better conversion, so less feed, more meat. The second was a less mortality. And the first was perhaps the most important. It has a very antibacterial working with Salmonella and also E. coli. So you can abandon for a big part antibiotics in feed. And that is something we know since a year and a half, and now we are pumping up that business. So we have our own downstream processing built ready, the installation, and that's very interesting. So that was the second. Yeah, we did a lot of also in packaging. We have in one of our existing factories, we have a product, we call it Eco Pouch. Eco for economy and also ecology. We designed a system that we can put fresh mushrooms in a pouch without adding anything, and then have them like a sous vide, a slow cooking method.
Okay.
At the moment that there's enough humidity after 30, 40 degrees centigrade, at that moment you give it a retort step, and very short, very high temperature, and then you chill it down with ice water, and the result is that you have a very crunchy mushroom, very natural in taste, 100% of the vitamins and minerals inside, and could be used in the industry as a raw material for blended meats, but also as a topping for burgers, which we do with some very famous American companies worldwide. You can use it in 3 minutes time. You can have a mushroom soup. So we also sell it to soup industry, but food service is our biggest market there. And the product as such, it's preserved mushrooms, so you don't need the cold chain. It has a shelf life of like 2 years. Has a lot of advantages. So we found out that we can also do this vacuumizing. When we add the mushroom into the pouch, we vacuumize the pouch. But if you add like truffle oil or garlic or even Worcester sauce we produce for an American customer, it gives a very intense taste. So we can give also personalized taste profiles to multi-users. That's a real advantage as well. So that is an innovation in packaging. The other thing we did is ergosterol. Ergosterol works in like a human skin. If you have a mushroom and you put it outside in the sunlight, the UV light changes. So the ergosterol it's a pre-vitamin D. Okay. It changes straight away into vitamin D, and that is the only plant source for vitamin D. Of course, you have animal sources like fatty fish, or also the skin of a sheep. And then you have, of course, synthetic solutions. We, as a plant-based, we hired a nutrition scientist. He's working with us just to prove the world that the working of vitamin D2 and D3 is more or less the same. It's only depends how you consume it. But we see a market. We should have done this before the COVID, of course, but because vitamin D is the most bespoke vitamin, and people are really have a shortage in vitamin D, because through religion that your body is covered, people are scared about the ozone hole, exposure to the sun. So we think in the future, like in the Nordics, in Finland, it's already obligation for the dairy industry that they add vitamin D. We think in the future to produce, we did some trials with chocolate and soups, and I think there might be a very good market where food becomes more functional, and so let your food be your medicine. Hippocrates 350 before Christ already mentioned. I think that plant-based solutions is all possible, and still we have quite a list of ingredients from the mushroom, special properties we are exploring in a way to make it healthy or more sustainable. That's very interesting. I mean, combining research, science with entrepreneurship, and also education. It's a real exciting model. So that is one of the reasons we say the Dare to Share part of our company is there where we take care of education. We started with that kids university for cooking, Kokkerelli,
Hmm.
because we saw that kids didn't know that food was not was just fuel for the body, but that food is fun and that food is something you can work in, you can grow, you can be a farmer, but you can be a scientist, you can be whatever in food. And we started that 11 years ago, and since then we have like 30,000 children given that experience, going to a grower, look how tomatoes grow or other products. Meat is the meat industry is not very responsive. They don't like to share with children how they work. So I found that kind of fun. When you talk to a German or Italian child, they know exactly that salami is not made from red beets. How they know
Right.
that it's from pork. But yeah, in our case, we saw that, and then we saw we might take it one step further, and that's how we found 4 or 5 other companies ready to invest in a chair. And a chair we use in health, education, but through food. And Maastricht University is facilitating that with 2 professors.
Excellent.
And our goal is to have our own masters from the end of next year, but dedicated. And there we see that education works together with science and with entrepreneurs. And I find that combination is really blooming. And more people should do that because at the end of the day, it's a business model.
Yep.
Like every sustainability, using less resources is a business model. And with the growing, we are also very active to change raw materials, to put in higher raw materials, higher in the circularity, but to reuse them.
Yep.
And also one step higher. And that means you create more value with less resources.
Let's go there, because that's I was reading an article about you recently, and it basically has a quote: Jan Klerken will not rest until the food industry is 100% clean. Obviously, they called you the unlikely star of the circular economy, but you're focused obviously heavily on this sector. Where are we in terms of 100% clean mushroom industry? I read that you're doing things with creating fertilizers from leftovers, things of this nature. Where is what's the cleanliness grade currently of the mushroom industry, and how much is it? Another 50 years? How much longer are you going to spend on that until we're 100% clean?
I mean, what means clean? At this moment, we say, I mean, there was a very nice project through the European Union and 8 countries and universities and companies, the fungus chain. The professor who was in the lead, he said it's a pity we need 3 kilos of raw materials to grow 1 kilo of mushrooms.
Mm.
And these 3 kilos of raw materials, so of course it sounds strange. But I asked him, why did you tell it that way around? We talk always the other way around. So we collect 100 kilos of side streams like horse manure, chicken manure, wheat straw, which has no value, has a negative value. We blend it together, pasteurize it, and we grow very nice mushrooms on it. And then we give that back to the land as a natural fertilizer, enriched with a lot of minerals and proteins. So it's better as a fertilizer. And but still you start with 2 negative streams. We are looking at other kind of materials where we can grow mushrooms on, and that could be a food product. And so then the mushroom is used, and the other product you bake bread, or you make a huge amount of other type of proteins for human consumption. That would be higher in circularity. And I think we are quite close to a lot of trials we did. We are quite close to have it ready, but to make it commercially viable, it really takes some more time. So I think with all the innovations, we were always far beyond. Because I said I don't like red lights, not in the traffic because it stops you, but in traveling, when you see the red lights of a train, means you are too late. And I don't like to be too late. So if you are the first, you are never the second. And in this case, we are definitely too far away, but we have the proof already that it works, but it's commercially, then the price of the mushrooms would triple. And I think there will become a time that the value of the mushroom will be seen as a health bomb, because what we are doing right now is we like to call the Scelta Institute from next year the mushroom pharmacy. We like to add properties to the mushrooms like B12, like what we are all missing, that we replace this A to Z vitamin capsule. We would like to replace it with a natural source of mineral and vitamins, and that is just portobello or white butter mushroom. But that's not in the stars. It's there. I mean, we have seen it growing here. We have our mini farm. We can do other things already. And another thing we are looking at. I mean, you need a lot of casing soil, flower turf, or you call it. This casing soil. The world is not producing that fast as we need it for the agriculture industry. And I think there must come also, and there must be a more sustainable source. And we did already in the 90s in India. We composted our spent compost and made casing soil out of it because there was no product available. But the availability, like in Australia, there's no casing soil. They have to bring it in from Canada or from Russia. And I think if you can find local solutions, that really makes a difference. And we have quite a number of projects ready for that and ready to take off. And that won't take another 50 years, but I think the industry will change within now and 5 to 10 years dramatically, because also the consumption of mushrooms will change, because people see it not as a meat replacer like we like to see it, of course, but it could be a center plate. There are a lot of other applications, like in the United States, very creative companies. They do like mushroom jerkies. And in the US, also companies busy to produce mushroom protein flour, very high protein flour with 11 or 12 very essential amino acids. So the industry is really moving forward, and we at the processing side, we see a lot of application possibilities. But we learned also to dose it a little bit, because when I think I have vitamin D in hand and I give it to people as a present, and then I ask them 2 months later, did you try it? No, not yet. See, we are excited about it, and I mean, you have a total different background, but these backgrounds coming together, pharma, biopharma, that's all growing together, because I believe in the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. We used to work in the beginning. We developed products in Taiwan, and there are hospitals without any medicine. Naturopathy is a way. I stayed to clean my body twice in India, and a naturopathy and yoga hospital. They have never heard of medicine, so they just do it with products from nature, and that's good. So mushroom will be a very attractive product for the future as well. But now, of course, we also have to we grow double digit. We have also to manage that part, and we have to create value to invest in research again, because we are not a multinational. We are a bigger family business, but and we don't want to borrow money for research.
Sure.
But yeah, there are other ways. So I'm very old-fashioned. I should do crowdfunding and stuff like that. That I see in plant-based industry like Beyond and Impossible Foods, they collect like 100 million, 200 million, and then they start investing properly in it. But yeah, this is my way. Perhaps the next generation will do it in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's but it's like I say, it's exciting. It's sometimes very boring because when you talk about we say winnovation. When you talk about that, it takes double the time. It takes 3 times the money you expected. But at the end of the day, if you reach the point where not even where you wanted to come, but because you always end up somewhere else. If you reach that point that you can bring a prototype to the market, that is a very exciting moment. Then that you did find out something nobody else did till that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jan, I typically, as I do on these shows, I always introduce the guest beforehand to my children to see if they come up with any interesting questions for you. And I have a couple here. This one's coming from my young daughter, and she just wanted me to ask you, do you like to eat mushrooms? And how often do you eat mushrooms in your daily diet?
I still love mushrooms, and I eat them quite often. Now during this COVID period, our small farm is not working. So my wife buys them also in the shop. But before that, I used to eat them every day. So there's now 1 year that I eat them perhaps 3 times a week. Because you can do a lot of nice things with mushrooms.
I can imagine. A little bit older kid now, my 18-year-old, is very interested. There's been a lot of activity, at least here in the United States, on the pharmaceutical opportunities coming from mushrooms, and specifically a very hot area here has been clinical studies on mental health and some of the hallucinogenic properties of magic mushrooms. Obviously nothing confidential, but do you ever have some of these pharmaceutical people coming to you for potential production of these types of applications that go a little beyond health and nutrition? Just that was a question from an 18-year-old.
Yeah, so we have in Amsterdam, we have these mushroom shops. There was a kind of coffee shops with them based on psychedelic,
right.
Psychedelic mushrooms. They are very interesting programs. In the United States, was a film, Fantastic Fungi. You should download it. It's great.
Yep.
About all these properties as well. So we know what it is, and we know what it can do. We know that you can also fight diseases. We saw also examples from it. In the US, you have a few rural leaders who know exactly how that works. Here we don't have it because drugs in Netherlands, we are very famous country for real hard drugs and stuff. So that the mushroom industry is a little bit because when I was traveling before COVID, and I would say, okay, I'm from the Netherlands, I'm in the mushroom industry. Everybody, without exception, said, okay, these hallucinating mushrooms. No, but our university in Maastricht, they are also looking at ways to use mushrooms for neuroscience, Alzheimer, and there are some really signs that it works. I mean, you are in the northeast part of the United States.
Yep.
There are a few universities. The one you know very well, I think, they have also a lot of capabilities there. And I think mushrooms could be also that source, but we try to find the soft side of it.
Absolutely.
But it's a very good question. I got this question not from an 18-year-old, but from 35 years old and older. It's very good.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's really been a fascinating time talking to you and hearing about this journey and the multiple generations, and really wishing you and your family the best with all of this moving forward. It's a very exciting journey. For anyone that's going to be listening on our podcast or watching on our particular episode on the YouTube channel. You've been listening to Mr. Jan Klerken, founder of Scelta Mushrooms, pioneering the fascinating intersection of taste, health, sustainability, also ambassador for the Kokkerelli Kids Institute for Cooking. Check out Scelta Mushrooms, check out the Scelta Institute, Scelta Inside. A lot of fascinating innovation you're doing. Really, Jan, I want to again thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us for a little while. Thanks for everything you're doing, and as we say on our show, thank you for helping to create a better tomorrow. Any final words? I'll be glad to hand you over the floor.
Yeah, thank you for your time as well, and yeah, very interesting people and programs you are making, you are producing. A very interesting background also, and you could be also, or you are part of the revolution where you see that bio and pharma and natural ingredients grow together, and I think that will be a total new industry for the future, and you are one of the main players in that industry. I think that through your professional life and through your podcast, you can combine these things quite easily. And I wish you all success in doing that. But again, thank you for the time. And it was my pleasure to take your time and talk to you. An interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan.